you hope to be respected professionals, promote such nonsense, it really is disappointing, because I genuinely believe they're either poorly educated or they're selling their soul to the devil, sacrificing their morals and ethics just to try and get money from you by selling. So it's probably Monday, which means it's probably time for another video. And in this case, we're doing a monthly thing we seem to be doing, which is a monthly TikTok roundup where I have a look at some of the most atrocious TikTok videos I've seen, or at least some I feel I can debunk and get some good information out of, which is exactly what we're doing today. Before we do so, I'd very much appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel by clicking the button down below. Apparently this individual is going to teach us how to build our shoulders, and I know he's going to do something. Okay, there we go. Boom. First thing I want to say about this, and the only actual thing. So everyone has this idea that doing pressing variations like a shoulder press is heavily going to be anterior delt focus, which is frontier delts. Not true. If you want to place more emphasis on the front delts or anterior delts, what we do is bring the arms forward slightly. Rather than pressing out to the side like this, we press like this, a lot more anterior delt. When the arm is out to the side, like we saw this individual do, you're actually going to get a lot more of the side delt. Then it's like, but Harry, you're doing a press. Why is that relevant? If I do a side raise and my arm is out to the side, everyone's like, wow, side delt. But then if I get to the top, bend my arms and carry on that same range of motion, it doesn't suddenly mean, wow, the shoulders have seen that you're actually involving the triceps more, therefore the front delt's going to take over. No, same plane of motion, which means similar muscles are going to be working. So again, think slightly more front, slightly more side.
Let's talk about how often and how many sets per week you should be hitting your glutes. Now, most muscle groups have a similar range of recommended weekly sets, but let's focus on the glutes since most of us girlies want to prioritize those. It's hard to recommend an exact amount because things like your training intensity, rest time, and recovery will come into play. But on average, if you were anywhere between 10 to 20 total sets per week.
I don't like volume recommendations because there's so many conflicting things out there and it's so dependent on many variables. If it were me and I were programming for myself or maybe even clients, for most clients looking to build muscle, I'd probably aim to hit most muscles anywhere from 4 to 10 working sets per week. Very much depend on the recovery, the intensity, so many things. Realistically, if you're training hard enough and you're recovering well and you're resting between sets for long enough, 4 to 10 split across multiple times per week, be that 2, be that 3, it's up to you. It's going to be fantastic. The big thing there is what can you recover from? You may be able to recover from 8 working sets per week. I may only be able to recover from 6. Therefore, my maximum volume will be 6, yours might be 8. It really is whatever you can recover from. And again, in the ideal world, we want to be able to eventually do as much recoverable volume as possible, because more volume, caveat here, equals more growth somewhat. Obviously, we know intensity is the biggest driver of growth, absolutely. But we know that volume will have a role to play in that, and more volume, provided it's recoverable, will cause more stimulus for growth, because if it didn't, 1 set of a movement and 10 sets of a movement would yield the same results, but we know that's not true. We know doing 1 set of chest once a week will not elicit as much growth as doing chest 1 set twice a week, therefore volume is relevant to an extent, but again, it depends what you can recover from. Oh, the only 4 exercises you need to get rid of that lower belly pouch, I need to know this. Heel taps, no, don't do that. Flutter kicks, also stupid, do not do this. Leg raises, less stupid, actually has a valid place, I respect it. Starfish crunches, I mean, it's actually better than the other movements we've seen. No movement in itself will essentially reduce that lower belly pouch. That's essentially going to be coming down to fat stores, which means move more, eat less. Laughing. When you do abdominal based workouts, it does not reduce the fat in the area. That would be spot reduction, which we know is not really a thing. What we then do is potentially build the muscle underneath it. Doing things like the flutter kicks, the abdominal region is not going through any relevant range of motion. You're just holding a contraction, but your hip flexors are going through a range of motion. So your legs, to an extent, your hip flexors and kind of around that abdominal region due to the contraction will be burning a lot. Does not mean it's working a lot. The starfish crunches are better because your abs are actually going through a relevant range of motion. The leg raises are also better because if you actually start doing like a reverse crunch at the top, your abs are also going through a relevant range of motion. By relevant range of motion, what I mean is reducing the distance between your sternum and your pelvis, or your pelvis and your sternum. That is the contractile range of the abs. Therefore, doing that is going to be pretty good. I'm going to say it very quickly. You don't have long. In January, coaching prices will be going up. If you have any hesitations, now's a chance to just entertain a free consultation call with me where we can just chat about a few things. And all you have to do is click the link down below and fill in the application form either in the description or the comment section. Doesn't mean you're committed to anything. Just hop on a call. Let's have a chat. If it appeals to you, you get to avoid the price increase even if we delay the start date. But again, once January comes around, all new applicants participants will be subject to the price increase that is occurring. If you aren't sure about it, fill in the form, hop on a call, and let's entertain a bit of waffle together. Full back day, let's give it a little analysis and a critique because I love a back day. Lat pull down, fantastic movement. Honestly, top tier, one of my best, love it. A wide grip lat pull down is a fantastic back exercise. 4x10, I'm not a fan of that rep range. Not having a range and just having a singular rep target is a bit tricky because if you're doing 4x10 every set to failure, by default, if you do 10 to failure on the first set, the reality is your second set will not be 10 because if you can get 10 again, you probably didn't push the first set hard enough. You should experience some drop off in most cases when pushing to failure between set to set. 4x60-10 would maybe be better. Barbell bent over rows, I mean, sure, if you want to, the issue we have with the bent over row is that your lower back here is going to get very fatigued, and it's likely going to fatigue more than the intended musculature being the upper back muscles here, which means you're actually reducing the effectiveness of said movement because it's being limited by an external weak point. Single arm row, valid. A frontal and sagittal plane lat movement, that's banging, that's absolutely cracking. Rope pulls, or like a rope pullover sort of thing, I mean, you can if you want to, it's really up to you, but you probably don't need to, especially when you've got the rows in there as well. A pullover is going to be heavily argued as a chest movement, not necessarily a lat movement. Paul Carter did a good video about this on the old Instagram machine. Oh god, it's a doctor. I assume he's a doctor. He's a diet coach, but he's in scrub, so I'm going to assume he's a doc. He says one doc, and I guarantee he's going to say some things that you may believe to be right and trusted are right because he's a doctor, but may actually be nonsense.
What foods you should avoid if you want to lose belly fat, especially number 1. Now, number 4, sugar, right? You should stay away from sugar if you really care to lose belly fat because sugar and belly fat, they don't go hand in hand.
No.
Number 3, soft drinks.
No.
Now, number 2, bread.
No.
If you want a diet plan, you can check the link in my bio.
Love it. Knew he was going to sell something, which is fine, but at least sell something on the back end of good information.
Now, number 1, rice.
No. All of the things he's presented here are absolute nonsense because quite frankly these are all heavily demonized things in the industry. Sugar slash carbs basically. Situation here is if you reduce your consumption of any of these things and do not change anything else about your diet, yeah, you probably will lose weight and fat. That's not because you've reduced those specific things, it's because you've just reduced your caloric intake. If you consume a massive amount of chicken, salmon and broccoli, I mean thousands and thousands of calories, guess what? You're going to gain weight. The source itself is not going to dictate where that fat goes. That's going to be heavily genetic. So you do not need to cut out sugar, soft drinks, bread, rice. If these are all indicators of your belly fat, why would I be well over 100 kilos with visible abs? Because I consume all of those in abundance. Probably not soft drinks actually, because I don't want my teeth to get absolutely battered, although I do like a little fizzy drink on occasion. Please do not demonize foods, and please do not hire anybody who is demonizing foods because they're going to give you a really boring and unsustainable diet that quite frankly you do not need to follow because you can achieve some fantastic results not removing anything you enjoy. Moderation is pretty key. Calories in versus calories out. The one thing I find quite funny about TikTok is there is so much nonsense out there, and the issue with TikTok is that people are free to post so much nonsense out there, and a lot of people believe a lot of the things that are being said. Quite frankly, when doctors and what you hope to be respected professionals promote such nonsense, it really is disappointing because I genuinely believe they're either poorly educated, which is concerning considering their profession, or they're selling their soul to the devil, sacrificing their morals and ethics just to try and get money from you by selling a nonsense diet plan that very much aligns with industry expectations and standards, which sadly involves heavily demonizing foods. You go against the grain, break the trend slightly and say, actually, you know what, you can achieve fat loss by eating and consuming all of these things. Suddenly, it's not what you've been taught for so many years, and it's not the kind of easy answer you're hoping to hear. Therefore, many people don't believe it to be true when it is. Just because someone's a doctor or more qualified than myself, for example, does not mean they're automatically right. But again, like with all my videos, this is simply my opinion, and I'd love to hear yours in the comment section below. And if you see any weird short form content bits and bobs either on YouTube, Instagram or TikTok, please send them to me at Harry_TFNL on Instagram, as I would love to look at them. But until the next one, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my waffle about many things today. And thank you for tolerating the video.